Hello, and thank you for joining us here in the beautiful auditorium on the campus of Full Sail University. And for those of you joining us online, welcome to the Web Design and Development's guest speaker series. My name is Chris Burke. I'm the program director for the Web Design and Development degree, and it's my pleasure to have our guests out here on stage with us. Keep in mind, this guest speaker series happens in the months opposite our graduate project showcase, which is every other month. And this month is no exception. We have a fantastic guest with us. These guest speaker series are designed to bring to you all of the wisdom and insight of a plethora of industry professionals that are generous enough to offer their time to all of us here on campus. So are you ready to get started? All right, so without any further ado, please help me welcome to the stage course director and your host for this afternoon, Mr. Brandon Brown. It's all yours.
Thanks, Chris. Hey, everybody. How are we doing today? Hey, that's kind of nice. So one more time, a little louder, maybe? Maybe? Come on, one more time. How's everybody doing? There we go. Thank you. All right. So I'm out here to introduce our presenter today and also give you a little bit of warning. So our presenter, he is a little bit of a storyteller. This is also why we love him. He's one of my favorite stories from Full Sail, actually. When I first started many moons ago as a teacher, he was in my first class. So it's been really fun to see how we've all have grown since he first walked through that door and had that awkward exchange. Hi, I'm a new teacher. You're a new student. Let's see how this works out. So he's a storyteller. He's going to come out here and he's going to have lots of jokes, a good time. You're in for a treat. He's one of our favorite students and one of our favorite professionals. And he's also a lifetime student. So I really hope that you guys pay attention to everything he has to say. It's going to be a fantastic talk. So without further ado, let's welcome Olivier Lacan.
Thanks so much. Hello. So there's an old thing, because I'm an older thing. I wanted to show you, that's the original Full Sail logo, the Dreamboat logo. It's fancy. It's been a while since I've been here. It's been exactly 1,610 days since I've been in this building 3. So I'm gonna tell you a few stories, really try to keep it short so I'm not boring, because you have stuff to do, I'm sure. We're gonna take a time machine, and this is gonna be my color for the time machine. Every time it's white, we're gonna take a time machine. And the first period we're gonna go to is 2010. In 2010, this guy made a huge mistake. A huge mistake. This guy is me, obviously, with a little bit more hair and glass in front of my face. I failed my intro to programming class. Not once, twice. That's really problematic because the reason I was at Full Sail was to learn programming. So, kind of awkward, very disappointed in myself. And it was a period where I didn't really know what was going to come next. I had learned a bunch of things, and I was really excited, and I failed suddenly really, really hard. So clearly, you should take advice from me. You should listen to everything I say, apply it to your life, and especially the people who are graduating soon. I'm so excited for you. Listen to everything I say. So I made some decisions that had bad consequences, and I want to talk about them because despite the fact that I made those decisions, we don't have sound. I'm going to do it again. Oh. Give me sound really quick, because the joke's not going to work otherwise. There's people! Okay, cool.
Was it worth it?
Totally.
So this is just a little intro for a story time. Slow clap, thank you. So it was February 2010, and in Miami, Florida, and my intro to programming final exam number 2 was in 2 days. And of course, when you have a final exam 2 days later, you go to a conference. It's a great idea. It's a great way to study and make sure you don't fail again. No. So I went to this conference. It was called Future of Web Apps Miami 2010. It was put on by a company called Carsonified at the time. And at this event, there were a few people whose names I did not recognize at all. And let me know if anybody recognizes a name on this list. It's one person, that's it. So I didn't really know why I was going to this conference. I felt like I had to, but in hindsight, these are the kind of people that I listened to at this conference. Steve Huffman was and still is the co-founder of Reddit. Alex Payne was an early employee at Twitter. John Resig created jQuery, which you probably use or have used websites that use jQuery. And Brian Lamb worked at Gizmodo at the time, now at the Wirecutter website. Mark Dunkley, really great guy, was one of the earliest employees of Shopify, which is a really big online commerce that was just IPO'd, so they went on the stock market recently. So I had no idea who John Resig was, and yet I was there and using his software pretty much every day on every website I was using, and even in school I was using his software. And this is me on the far side with a bunch of people, and I dare you to figure out which one is John Resig. You can't tell. On the right? Nope, that's my friend Andrew. He's awesome, but that's not him. John Resig is the guy right there with the black shirt. And the reason I'm telling you that you can't recognize him is because he's just like everybody else. He looked literally exactly like one of you guys and girls in the audience. So it's important, I think, from this story to remember that you have to learn about the people who make the software you use and the software you're going to build things with. You should read from them, and you should try to talk to them. Because what I didn't think I would be doing at this conference is talking to the creator of jQuery. And I did, and it had a lot of important effects in my life. But remember not to ask for autographs to people. You can ask them questions. You have like lots of things like, how did you get there? How did you create this thing? Like, can I ask you for advice? Can you be my mentor? But an autograph? And it's not just about the big names. There was a little networking social thing called Gowalla at the time in 2010 that I was really addicted to, because basically you could go around and try to check in into places, kind of like Yelp and Foursquare lets you. But you could also collect a bunch of badges. So every time you went to a strip mall, you can check in at every little like crappy nail salon, and you would get a badge and be like, yes, super rare badge, super exciting. And in East Orlando, where I lived at the time, there was so many new places that hadn't been added to Gowalla that I kept getting like really cool badges, and I was like number one everywhere. I was like leaderboards. And at this conference, I suddenly realized while I was in a room full of people with a friend, my friend Andrew that you saw in the white shirt, he pointed to someone and said, isn't that someone that has a company in Orlando? Like, I feel like I know his name. And I looked at the guy and instantly saw the avatar of that horrible, horrible person who was always number one every time I tried to check in somewhere in East Orlando. He's always like leaderboard, and he always had the best badges. Like there's a bunch of cool badges like the space station or like the shuttle and a bunch of really funny things. He had the Code Monkey badge, and I really, really wanted that badge. I don't know why. And so I said to him, I walked over and I said, "Hi, I believe you're my nemesis on Gowalla," and this was his face. And then something happened. His face turned to that. Because he remembered, he recognized me from that stupid little game that we were both playing and he was also addicted to. So he remembered that, and that sparked a conversation. And out of that conversation, a lot of things happened. I introduced my friend Andrew. Andrew was learning Ruby, and Greg had a Ruby development shop, so that made sense. And so yeah, that was Greg. If you don't know Greg, you'll probably hear more about him in this talk. So some decisions I've made in the short term didn't make any sense. It was, I'm going to go to this conference, and I don't really know why, and I'm going to meet a bunch of people, and then probably I'm going to fail this final that I have, which is kind of a bad idea. I don't want to encourage you to go to conferences and fail your finals, because that's not really the message here. The initial payoff seemed small. We met a guy, and we met a bunch of people, and we had a good time, and we came back, and we had, food on the road, and then I failed my final. So now we're going to fast forward to 2011. On December 24th, 2011, it was 12:26 a.m. because I remember coming out of a showing of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I don't know why I went to see that movie on Christmas. It's not really like super Christmassy or like cheery at all. It's like super sad and depressing. But I checked my phone on the way to the parking lot, and I see a message with this subject, FYI. It's like, okay, FYI about what? I don't know. But the person who's sending me that email is the same Greg Pollock that I met 2 years prior. And this is what the email contains. Pretty much everyone thinks we should hire you. Let's make it happen, period. Sent from my iPhone, period. Actually, there's no period. You skip that. So that was a huge span of 2 years between me doing something that seemed like a bad decision and then meeting someone. And 2 years later, that germinated into a job, and not any kind of job. And this is how I felt when I got that email. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. Still feel like that. But despite the fact that I compressed this timeline of 2 years into 2 minutes, hopefully not too much more than that, it wasn't that easy. So I want to kind of talk to you about the tough parts. While I was at Full Sail, I was really worried about what was going to come next. I don't hope, but I think maybe some of you are as well. And I worked way too much. And that seems weird because the point of being here is to compress a bunch of 2 years and learn a bunch of stuff and work way too much. But what I mean by working way too much is that a typical spring 2010 day was waking up at 8, driving to downtown to freelance at Greg's company, NV Labs, and going back to school at 12 to do a lab or see a class for 4 hours, and then going back home to work with my friends on this company that we had started, because why not start a company as well while we're at it? And we had client work until 2 in the morning after all the homework we had to do. And eventually, we started shouting at each other because we were super tired, drunk. Not drunk actually, but just so tired that we just couldn't see clearly. It was just everything annoyed us. And I was kind of a loudmouth, so I started getting angry at my friends for no reason whatsoever. And the friends that I needed to support me at Full Sail started being annoyed by me. I neglected my health and my personal life. Actually, I remember around that time, for a few months, my diet was basically froyo from Menchie's and then sweet tea from Firehouse, and that's about it. And I was kind of surprised that I lost weight around that time. And I didn't have to risk all of that to get to where I am. Those were not the necessary points to get to, oh, I got a job and I'm excited and this is a job I want to do. I could have done less but better. I could have focused on the things that actually matter, which is my friends and the projects we were working on and the things that actually matter, and not the cheap side projects and the things that distract you. I could have asked for help. And thankfully, my friends helped me. My friend Zachary Nichol sent me an email one night, and he said, hey man, this is not working. And it was a long email, multi-paragraph email, where he said, we didn't sign up for this. You're ruining your best years. You're trying to do too much at a time, and I have a family. I care about them, and I want to see my family. So don't keep to yourself, because these people are going to save your life. They're going to remind you of the things that are important. So around you, even earlier in the degree, you can find people that can guide you, that can help you, that you can help. Which brings me to introversion and extroversion. Everybody, a lot of people, thinks that they're either an introvert or an extrovert, when really, in fact, everybody is kind of both. It's a split. You have a percentage of one and a percentage of the other. There's a really good book that came out, I think last year, called Quiet by Susan Cain. It's subtitled The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And it's not just about introverts, it's about the different types of people and how they interact with each other, and the fact that sometimes you're going to be an introvert and sometimes you're going to be an extrovert. And sometimes great bosses are introverts, not loud extroverts. Another really important thing that happened during that period is that I found my third place. My third place at the time, so the place between work and home, was Firehouse. So the one that's on campus right there, like on Full Sail 4A, the really loud one with the ESPN blasting really loud when you're sitting and trying to concentrate on something. The reason I have noise-canceling headphones is because of this Firehouse. More recently, it's been places like downtown Credo. So places around this city, in this community, where a lot of really creative people, really kind, welcoming people just pass by, float around you, and eventually kind of get in contact with you and help you and guide you. There's also a place like Vesper on the east side of town where I used to live, where there's a lot of students, but a lot of creative people. And I know that meeting people is hard, but you don't have to work hard to meet people. You can let people bump into you. When you're at these places and you're working or you're grabbing a coffee or having a drink, these conversations will erupt, and you'll have these people that you never knew you could meet. And these opportunities like the one I had where I met this random guy at a conference just because I happened to be there. And this kind of like concept, this kind of concept I like to think of, and my mentor Ed likes to think of as the dream space. It's not necessarily something that's in your head. It's a place where you'll work on making the little bits of your dream functional and push them to be real. So you have to reach out, and at the time at Full Sail, reaching out meant not getting isolated and working on my own stuff. We had a bunch of people after I failed those 2 programming classes that I discovered. These 3 people. Aren't they beautiful? Especially the one in the middle. Yeah. So that's Alicia, Brooks, Tyler, Matthews, and Anthony Colangelo. And these 3 people were my dream team at Full Sail. I met them after failing. They failed a bunch. I think Alicia went back a couple classes too. And eventually we got into a group where people started experimenting on us because we worked really good as a group. And I've learned way more from these people than I've learned from a lot of subject matter skills, topics and things like that. I learned how to cooperate with them, learn from them, teach them stuff that I knew, exchange, and like get stuff done. And I remember when I posted that picture, I put the best team money can't buy, because it's really what it felt like. It felt like maybe we were going to go our separate ways after Full Sail, but while we were there, we could create amazing stuff. There's also people that are not your age or not your same situation that you can find. Around this room, you can find several of my mentors, people that I stay in touch with, not every day, not regularly every week, but once in a while I just talk to them. I have dinner with them, or I send them an email, and they make sure that I'm either still on track, or they ask me questions that I stop asking myself, like, am I still actually working to do what I want to do, or am I just biding my time? So yeah, stay in touch with these people. And you may not even be aware of the fact that they're mentors because you think of them as teachers, but really there are people that can push you forward even after you graduate. So, jump back in time again. Now it's 2011. June 3rd is my graduation day. So, some of you, it's going to be soon. I don't know where you are. Sorry. You pointed to you, so soon. So you're going to enter the real world. And this is a spoiler. This is how it feels like when you enter the real world. It's uncomfortable, huh? That's exactly how it feels. It feels like a room where someone should be talking, but no one's talking. You expect people that were around to still help you, and they will try, but they're not the people that you need help from. There's so much silence, and you were super hyper for 2 years, like really intense, and you were learning things and talking to people and meeting new people and experimenting with things, and suddenly there's nothing. And it's kind of deafening in a weird way. So you freak out. If you're like me, you freak out and you do things like this. You're just like, job applications. Oh my God, people are getting jobs and I don't have one. How does this guy who's really bad, I think, already have a job and I don't have one? So you should, I mean, I did, but you should also interview everywhere, not just try to have this one job that you think is going to be the surefire shot. Like the likelihood of you getting your perfect job, the one that's going to be the best right out of college, is very low. It's possible that for a while you'll have a job that's just a job to keep you progressing a little bit until you're good enough to get that one job that you really, really want. So I learned at Full Sail more than I had learned the 10 years prior. So there's a lot of knowledge that I had accumulated, and it was also a rhythm that it was really hard to sustain after college. The problem is that I had to learn a bunch of stuff, practical stuff. I learned Ruby and I learned Rails, and I decided to be a Rails developer, and there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I had to basically go home every night and read a book and try to figure out the things that I didn't know. And I showed up at work in the morning and I would like watch screencasts to be like, okay, I don't understand how to do this. I'm gonna try to get it. And I was paid to do it, which is really weird. Just like software doesn't sell itself, you don't either. The fact that you're great is not just radiating from you. I mean, unless you're actually radioactive, which is really bad. When you go in an interview or when you apply for a job, you're also interviewing the people that you're trying to work with. Remember that. That's a really, really important thing. You're supposed to scope them out. I did a talk like way back with Edward, I think, where I talked about stalking your prey. But literally, stalk your prey. Figure out who these people are, what they think, what they talk about, what they care about. And remember that a job is not a favor someone's giving you because you accumulated a bunch of debt and you need money really bad. They need you just as much as you need them. And remember to always ask for more than what's comfortable. Because you're a student, that there's this thing that happens where you're like, well, you know, I'm just a student. And a lot of people say that. They come ask for advice and they say, well, you know, I'm just a student and I'm trying to find my first job. Yeah, you're just a student who's learned a ton of things that people who work don't have the time to learn. So you're valuable, and you shouldn't sell yourself short. That's especially true for women and minorities, because statistically, because you see less of you in the environment you're trying to join, the workforce you're trying to join, you assume that you have to make compromises that you shouldn't have to make. So when you join that workforce and you actually get that first gig, everything feels so slow. It's just like so sluggish. You used to have this calendar and this schedule at Full Sail that kept going, or even just any school. And people just kept getting in the way. For me, it was like that. People kept getting in the way of actually doing work. So I could see I had a little tracker that would track my productivity and how much code I would write every day. And that tracker went way down when I got a job. And it wasn't because I was lazy. It was just like the work of doing work takes time that means you can't put that into actually being productive, which is infuriating. Like, I'm being paid for this now, and I can't work as much. So let's fast forward to now. And I'm going to keep it short, so if you guys have questions. So this company that I joined was called NV Labs, and it had a little baby product that they were trying to play with, to experiment with, and that product was called Code School. And I was really excited about working on that thing because I had followed that company, kind of like that stalking the prey thing. I had gone to meetings and meetups and beta tests of some of the early Code School stuff that they were doing. And I had met a bunch of the people who worked on that team. And even though I got a job and I couldn't work with them at first, I kept in touch with them, and I kept trying to see what they were doing and how it was like to work there. And eventually, I got an opportunity to actually talk to someone, and they allowed me to come work with them. And since then, I've been working on something that I actually believe in, that excites me, with people that I actually adore, one of which is sitting right there. And it's so exciting, but it seems so easy when I compress everything to like a 15-minute presentation, where jumping from the struggles of Full Sail to getting that gig, it seemed like that 6 months out of out of the year after I graduated, when I had my first job, lasted forever. And then suddenly, the gears that I had set in motion years prior, in 2010, like during my degree, going to little free conferences like Bar Camp Orlando in downtown, like meetups, like Build Guild used to be a meetup. There's a bunch of meetups in town where you actually can meet people, and if it works and you actually make relationship with these people, it doesn't mean that you're like begging them for a job. They'll get to know who you are and get a sense for how you work, maybe. So one of the tagline of Code School is learn by doing, which may sound familiar to people at Full Sail because that's literally what we do all the time. I've been there for 4 years now, almost, and for a while I worked there because I'm French. I had a student visa and a work visa, and I stayed there. But that visa eventually expired, so stuff got complicated. I had to move back to France. And that dream that I had worked so hard, I think, 4 years basically, to build, was crumbling under my feet. It felt like everything was dissipating. And I remember going on a plane with my 2 cats, because I thought, let's adopt cats. Well, you don't have a permanent residence. 2 cats in crates at the Miami airport, and I was sweating because it was hot, and I was trying to move these cats back with me to France, and I remember just sitting down and just like breaking down and crying because I could see almost, as I sat in the plane, I could see my dream kind of like floating away slowly out the window. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you find people like the people I found, they'll actually help you stay in that space, stay in that dream space that you've constructed and worked so hard to build. If they're decent people, they'll try to help you. They've actually helped me try to apply for another work visa, although like it's a big situation in the US, it's really hard to get one. But in the meantime, they said, you know what? You're going to work remotely, and we're going to make it work. And as long as we keep the conversation going and communication is good and stuff gets done, you can work from France. You can work from a train or a plane. And as long as you get stuff done, it's good. We trust you. And it's crazy because I never thought of asking that. I remember going like, well, it's probably gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen. I guess this is over. And people from my own company, people I never asked for that, came to me and said, so we're gonna just do that, and we check in, and like we'll figure out the time zone difference, and here's, can we reply for that visa? And people from all over the company would send me private messages saying like, I'm so sorry you're leaving. I can't wait for you to come back. What's your situation? Like, how can I help? Even though they had no knowledge of immigration law or anything like that. So they made it work, and it's been a year and a half since I went back to France, sort of, because I'm all over the place. I fly to conferences, and I work from there. I go see my parents, and I work from there. And I love it, because the people who I work with allow me to do what I want to do, what I care about doing, even if I can't be with them physically, which is kind of incredible. Like, if you find someone like that, I really wish that you can find a team of people that value you like that actually trusts you and lets you work with them despite the hurdles. So it's possible. And if there's anything I can do to help you folks find people like that, if you have any questions for stuff like that, we'll talk about it later, probably. I'd like to help, because I think every single person here deserves a chance like that, deserve to be able to work, not just a really cool team of students in a school, in a little bubble like that, but in the rest of their life and actually accomplish things like that. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.